在1年前，我其实看过一个45岁，但是呢，他的身体跟18岁一样强，而他每天5点起床，吃100个药片，从来不晒太阳，非常神奇。所以我今天特别想问他，他为什么要这样做？永生真的是可以实现的吗？对我们普通人来说，如果我们想要抗衰，到底最有效的是什么？就坐在那边，看起来非常像个吸血鬼，你们去看看。Welcome to my channel. I have a very special friend sitting next to me, the man who wants to live forever, Bryan Johnson. You want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you know, the first time I saw you is on Chinese TikTok, and it says you were 45 years old and you have a body age slower than an 18-year-old, and you take like 100 pills every day, wakes up at 5 a.m., never gets sunlight. I was like, that's quite mind-blowing. So I am very honored that you came to China and meet with me. I have lots of questions, like actually a hard question I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me, how would you usually describe yourself to the audience?
I am the first human that won't die. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, in 1522, Ferdinand Magellan said, I think the world is round. I think we can sail around it, and I think I know a path. He got funding from the government, he got a bunch of ships, and they had navigation tools, and they set off. Now, most people at that time thought that he was crazy, or it was impossible, or that they would die for sure. And so every time throughout history, people imagine impossibly hard and crazy things, and sometimes they're right. So right now, it is absolutely crazy for someone to say, we may be the first generation to not die. And I'm suggesting that it's inevitable that we are walking down this path, and that it sounds crazy right now. In 2030, it will sound less crazy. In 2035, people will believe it.
Okay. So have you ever projected like how long you will live, or it's like, it's unknown?
It's unknown. Like one thing we've been tracking is, so inside everybody's clock is a speed of aging. So you know this intuitively, that some of your friends look great for their age and some look old for their age. Like some age fast, some age slow.
Right.
Now, there's reasons for that. Like every day our bodies die naturally, but then certain things make us die faster, like alcohol and smoking and bad foods, bad air quality, contaminants in food, not sleeping well, having a poor diet. And so other things like healthy foods and exercise and sleep help you age slower. And so for mine, for example, my speed of aging is 0.64, which means my birthday is every 19 months.
Oh.
So I've dramatically slowed down my speed of aging. So 12 months passes, and then I get an extra 7 months for free. And so if we can push that back further and further, we could get to a point in time where we're all celebrating birthdays every 24 or 36 months. And so you just slowly bring down the speed of aging until you get to a certain point, and then you start reversing some aging damage, and you can get to what's called age escape velocity, where 1 year of time passes and you don't age at all.
Okay. So I have lots of questions I want to ask you. So why don't we go back to the very original point? I heard that you found Braintree. Yeah. And then you sold it to PayPal. I was just very wonder, like, where's your motivation coming from? Like, what's the point that you were like, I'm gonna be very invested in this not dying thing?
It started when I was 21 years old. I was a missionary for my church. I'm no longer a part of, but I had been in Ecuador, and I had lived among extreme poverty, you know, dirt floors, mud huts. And I was so moved by that situation. In the US, I was like lower middle class. But still, we had a house and we had basic medical care. I came back to the US and I just said, I really want to spend my life doing good in the world. I wanted to help humanity. I didn't know what. So I said, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, make a whole bunch of money, and then with money, do something good in the world. And so when I sold Braintree Venmo, I achieved that goal. And the question was, what to do now? And so that's a really hard question to figure out. And so I did two things. One is I organized a bunch of dinners in the US, and I invited my smartest friends to the dinners, and I posed a thought experiment to them. I said, imagine we're existing in 2050, and the world is amazing. Like, we can't believe how cool the world is. What did we do in 2017 that made that world possible? And then everyone gave me their answers. But as you would expect, they said the typical things that were in the zeitgeist of 2017. And so I made a rule for myself. I wrote down all their ideas, I put a little box around it, and I said, I can't do anything inside that box. So I can't do anything that any human's thinking about right now. And that was my first step of trying to figure out what to do.
What happens next?
The next couple of years, if I had a list where I had to exclude stuff, so now I had to figure out what to do. And so to do that, I was acknowledging within myself, my own intelligence could only reach out to as far as I could imagine or experience. I couldn't reach beyond my own intellect. So I thought, what if I just asked the future? Like, what if I asked people in the year 2500 what they think? And so I did a thought experiment. Like, I'm there hanging out, and whatever form of intelligence that exists then, a few hundred years into the future, I'm imagining they're sitting there talking amongst themselves, and they're observing us in the early 21st century, us, primitive Homo sapiens. And they're like, oh, those poor creatures, we feel so bad for them. And they say, but we're so grateful that they did blank. What do they say about us? I thought about that question for years, and I think they say two things. One, Homo sapiens in that time period gave birth to superintelligence, in the form of AI. They gave birth to a form of intelligence far superior than their own. And two, they figured out that they were transitioning from death being inevitable to not dying. And that cultural shift changed everything about reality. When death is inevitable, you play all sorts of games of certain kind of religions and exchanging health for professional success and YOLO and self-debauchery. Like, you just make up all these things that you're gonna die inevitably, so it's like, why not? Versus if you're not gonna die, it changes everything about your existence. And so I think that's what the 21st century says. So I said, okay, so with that conclusion, I'm going to basically travel from the future back in time, and I'm going to live like people in the future would live, where existence is the highest virtue. Okay.
So first of all, boom, I'm like watching a Marvel movie. But seriously, like that was a lot of thinking process. So that's from a very rational perspective. So I honestly want to ask you, is there any incident that actually happened in your life that really made you decide to do that?
It's an interesting question because all of us are susceptible to telling stories about ourselves that are flattering and favorable.
Right.
And that oftentimes means we're pretty unaware of our own selves. True. And so I'm pretty, as self-aware as I am, I have gaping holes in my self-awareness, and I don't really know why I do the things I do. I would say that as an entrepreneur, I was depressed for 10 years, deeply, chronically depressed. And so many times I wanted to give up and commit suicide. And
while you were at Braintree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had 3 children, and had it not been for them, I would have committed suicide. But something inside of me just kept on going, and I don't know what it is or why. So it's hard for me to piece the pieces together really on why I am the kind of human I am. I guess I would attribute this in part that I've read so many biographies. I love, as my primary relationships are historical figures from biographies. I feel like I know them well enough that I can have a dialogue with them. And I really appreciate people who've done epic things, and they've built this amazing world around us. We benefit from so many of their discoveries and inventions and courage, and I wanted to be among them. I wanted to contribute something so that people in the future would say, I have a relationship with Bryan Johnson, and I feel him and I appreciate him, and I can learn things from him. And so I just view myself as part of a group of humans trying to push the human race forward. And I guess that's just part of my identity for whatever reason, but I find it meaningful, and whether it's true or not, at least it's a story in my mind that I find enjoyable to tell myself.
Wow, so that's the part where you found your own identity that made you want to live longer.
Yeah.
It's actually quite funny because in China, there are a lot of successful entrepreneurs from Pinduoduo to this water brand, 农夫山泉, and their founders, after achieving the success in current stage, I found them often going pursue for the biomedicine part, researching longevity. So I just got very curious, why are all the smart people going through that path?
Yeah, I think this is my hypothesis. The more intelligent a species gets, the more it values existence. If you were to imagine there's a God, what does God value above all things? Its own existence. it's pure existence. Like everything else is great to have, but if you don't exist, all things are dead. And so we as a species, we've always died. And when you die, you have all this death cope. So in that situation, you have religions that say like, there's a heaven. And if you do these things, you get heaven. Or you engage in this reincarnation cycle and you want to be liberated. Or if you are so epic in your professional career that you'll be remembered in biographies. Or if you have kids, your lineage will carry on. Or if you go to war and you're a great warrior, you'll be in songs. Like, humans want continuation of their essence through these various means. And so humans have been playing this game, don't die, forever. There's always been different versions of it. But as we're now giving birth to superintelligence, like a new thing is emerging, where if we can begin extending our lifespans, we may see this really big shift where there's less emphasis on wealth accumulation and status and power, and more towards preservation of existence. Like this really hard shift as a species that we just care about being alive. Like it's the coolest thing that we exist and we don't want it to end. So I think like there's this intuition that people are feeling that existence is this increasing on their virtue scale, and more people acknowledging it doesn't make sense to die. Like it's no longer cool to die.
Okay, I think I got a little bit of it. So do you still believe in God then?
I certainly could express an opinion about God, but God is an unknowable thing. Nobody knows if there's an afterlife. Nobody knows if there's a God. It's not a testable hypothesis. Is gravity real or not? You and I can both drop this and like we can make the experiment, but those things, it's not a knowable. And so I try to, especially because I'm doing these things in health, I try to be very clear what is knowable and what is not knowable. And so the things that are not knowable, I don't speak to because that's just pure speculation. I try to speak to the things which can be known.
I see, okay. So basically you want to push the limit of human race. So what did you do to experiment? I heard you measure every single thing.
So in my company, we built software for financial transactions. And in doing that, we started with V0, it went to V1 and V2 and V3. You just make software better, you clean up the bugs, but you build a better software project over time. And I looked at my own behavior and I was like, it's weird because as much as I learn in certain ways, I also am this catastrophe of a human where every day I'll make the same mistakes. Like I'll wake up in the morning and say, I am not going to drink, or I'm not going to eat these junk foods, or I'm not going to stay up late, or I'm not going to, like whatever things you're not going to do, or I'm going to exercise. Then by the end of the day, you haven't done 10 things you wanted to do. You did drink, you did stay up late, you did end up smoking, like, so I was evaluating my own behaviors, like, why do I do things that I don't want to do? Even though if I do them, I feel bad about it and I regret it, I still do them and I can't stop myself. Like, that's so weird. Why is that the case? And so I wanted to treat myself like an engineering project. What if you actually engineered human health so that humans improved at the speed of technology? So the same way we get updates for our phones every couple weeks, everything improves around us. Why wouldn't I get an update all the time for my health? And so I tried to build an algorithm. So I hired 30 doctors. I measured every organ of my body to get the biological age. And then we evaluated all the scientific literature ever published on health span, lifespan. We ranked all of it and we prioritized the highest performing evidence and we put it all into me. And then over the past 4 years, I've become the most measured person in human history. And I have the best biomarkers of anybody on planet Earth. So I published 44 biomarkers, including like my speed of aging, my cardiovascular health, my total bone mineral density, like muscle, fat, down the line. I have better biomarkers than anybody on planet Earth. And so I showed that a process of science and data in this iterative fashion actually works. And I open sourced it for the entire world. So everyone has access to what I've learned. They can all do it themselves.
Wow, like I'm watching Avatar now. It's from Marvel to Avatar. Why would you use yourself as the experiment center instead of like some guinea pig?
Yeah, I mean, Amelia Earhart flew the first airplane across the Atlantic Ocean. The Wright brothers flew the first plane. Like somebody has to be the explorer. Somebody has to do it. And it needs to be in a highly controlled fashion. Like what I do, you have to be almost perfect in discipline. right? To follow a protocol. It's a luxurious position to be in. Like, I can do it. I can pay for the infrastructure to make it happen, but it's a really hard thing to pull off. Like, the entire thing is to have a team, do the structure, and then actually be the controlled experiment. It's very hard.
Yeah, can you actually tell us what is the daily routine right now for you? Like, what time do you wake up? What do you do after?
My day is very simplified from what it was before. We've really reduced it to things we have confidence in. So every day begins the night before. So sleep is my #1 life priority. Sleep is the most powerful drug in existence for anything, mental health, performance, everything. So I go to bed at 8:30 p.m. I'll sleep 8 hours and 34 minutes on average. I fall asleep within 2 to 5 minutes of hitting the pillow. I'll sleep for roughly 2 hours of REM, roughly 2 hours of deep. I'll be up for less than 30 minutes, and I'll wake up feeling great. Most of the time, I achieved the best sleep score in human history, 8 months of perfect sleep, the best one ever recorded. And then I wake up around 5 or so, naturally, and then I will exercise. I take my body temperature with my inner ear, I weigh myself, I look at hydration, I see a bunch of metrics. I do light therapy, so I look at 10,000 lux to get light in my eyes to cement my circadian rhythm. I'll then eat some protein, take some pills. I'll work out for an hour, then do red light therapy. I'll eat breakfast, which is a bunch of vegetables, and then I'll get ready for the day. Pretty straightforward. I'll do a hair cap, but like pretty a small number of things. I'll interweave a few therapies throughout the day, sometimes see some doctors, but generally speaking, like, those are the basics I do.
I remember you said you take 100 pills every day. In your latest video, you said you have a wine pill. Do you take them all together at once?
Yeah, I'm down to about 40 pills. So a lot of people, they hear that, and a lot of people are like, that's crazy, maybe, or maybe it's normal, we'll see. And they say, that must wreck your liver, but we measure my liver extensively. My liver's perfect. It has the profile of an 18-year-old. I measure it via imaging with MRI, and also the liver enzymes via blood panel. So liver's great, and then no diet in the world satisfies the body's needs. So you can't just eat foods and get everything you need. You have to supplement. So the question is, what do you supplement? So you want to supplement certain things to help the body, and you want to supplement things to help solve deficiencies. And then you can add on some kickers, like if you want to extend lifespan for longevity. So once you add up deficiencies, basic needs, and longevity boosters, yeah, I'm like 40 pills a day, thereabouts.
A challenging question for you. This is more like a machine living style. So are you really happy like doing all these?
The really funny thing about this question is it's asking a healthy person if they're happy, right? So it's just funny. So most people are not healthy. Most people are depressed. Most people are anxious. Most people are sleep deprived. Most people do not get enough exercise. Most people have the jitters from too much caffeine. Most people are on meds, right? Like, that's most people. Then they see me doing my stuff. I'm getting great sleep. My biomarkers are perfect. I exercise every day. I feel amazing. And then the question is, am I happy? I think it's kind of funny. You think it's kind of funny?
Well, I think that's 2 dimensions.
Really?
Yeah. I think a healthy person can be unhappy.
Okay.
A sick person can be happy, yeah.
Okay. I've never personally been sick and happy. Whenever I feel sick, I feel awful. Whenever I feel healthy, I feel happy. So I guess I'm calling attention to that. It's funny that I personally never heard someone say, I'm so healthy that life sucks. I just don't hear it. Like, every healthy person I know is like doing pretty well in life. So I'm just calling attention to the cultural norm that it's funny that when someone is in our culture right now, when someone sees someone else who's healthy, they say, but you can't be happy. So yeah, okay. I think it's funny.
I see where you're coming from, yeah.
Right, because it's such a weird cultural norm that being unhealthy is normal. So it's like, okay, cool, you're unhealthy and miserable, cool, but you must be happy. And then someone who's healthy, they're like, oh, but you sure can't be happy.
But what about, there are many people around me, they're like physically, they're healthy, they're fine, they're young, but mentally they're broken. So what about this part? Do you think that can also be fixed by you taking all the meds or the vitamins? Well,
so I guess it depends on what you mean healthy, right? Like healthy on what dimension?
Right.
Like if you took a blood panel or you did a cognitive assessment or their sleep, like they may appear healthy because they have the benefits of youth. But if you look at any of the biomarkers, they're terribly unhealthy.
Okay.
So like, if you just look at the data, I'm just saying like people who have like good biomarkers, in my experience, who are sleeping well and exercising and taking good care of their health, generally speaking, in my experience, are much happier people than those who are not.
Okay, interesting. Recently, I feel this pain in my belly, and I went to doctor. They're like, I cannot diagnose where is it coming from, but I still feel this pain. So sometimes I go to Chinese medicine, and then they will kind of the yin yang thing help me. So what's your view on Western and Eastern medicine?
Yeah, I'm open-minded and supportive of all things.
Okay.
So we just want to measure it and make sure it works. Like, there's very clear things, like when someone's obese, that's bad. You want them to be in a healthy body weight, right? So the question is, how does the obese person go from obese to healthy body weight? It doesn't matter, like, take any kind of practice in the world, apply it to the person, and then we can measure, are they obese or not? And so there's very practical ways to measure all things. So if you have a pain here, right, like something in your body is generating a pain response. And so there's a few ways to go about it. You can take like that approach you did, you can go get an MRI and say, if you look at the imaging of that part of your body, do we see anything that is abnormal? So there's so many ways to do it. So I really, I'm open to all things. I simply want measurement to verify, does it work or not, in some kind of scientific way with numbers.
Have you ever experimented or explored Chinese medicine yet? Because it's not measured at all.
You're right, it's not measured at all. So, so I'm aware of many Chinese medical practices. I think they're great. I'm very open to them. What we did is we focused on the published scientific literature. And so in doing that, we have blind spots where so much of the world's practices, including Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, they are an undocumented kind of medicine, which again is fine. Doesn't mean they're wrong. They just don't have like rigorous studies behind them. The global scientific community has kind of formed consensus around a process of the scientific method, where you do a certain trial, you get data, you get results, and you either prove or disprove certain theories. And so we've really focused on evidence and numbers. And so that's where I think we've succeeded in the world, is we became number one because we went through this rigorous process to say, we agree on these general parameters of a healthy human, like low inflammation and high cardiovascular ability and high total bone mineral density. Like, no one disagrees with those things. Like, so we really try to play like straight down the lines. There's no Olympic sport for health. There's a 100-meter dash, there's swimming, and there's like all these, there's fencing, but there's no Olympic sport for health. And so I wanted to create a new Olympic sport for health and say, here's the scoreboard, here are the numbers, and I am a gold medalist. Like, I'm the best in the world, and then others can compete with me and try to beat me on the podium, but here's the data. So I tried to create a formalized framework on what good health is.
Okay. So among all the things you have tried, all of my girlfriends want me to ask you, what is the most effective thing for anti-aging?
Yeah, I'll give you a few power laws. The most important thing is to slow down your speed of aging.
Okay.
Yeah, because the faster you age, the faster you develop wrinkles, the faster your skin discolors, the faster you have crow's feet, right? The faster you lose ability in the body. And so you want to slow your clock down.
Right.
And so there's several things to slow your clock down. Sleep, diet, and exercise being among the most powerful. And so a lot of people, their disposition towards sleep is like pretty indifferent. It's like, yeah, like when I get to it. And in some ways, culture celebrates sleep deprivation.
Right.
Like, ambition is associated with sleeping less. Like, if you're ambitious, you brag that you only sleep 4 hours a night or 3 hours. That's not great for your health. And so one is you want to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And you want to hit those parameters I mentioned. So sleep is the most important. Exercise is great. So every day is important exercise. So if even just something basic like going for a walk for 20 minutes or getting up from your desk or your couch throughout the day of being active, you can also, of course, do much more rigorous exercise with high intensity training. Strength training is wonderful, but having a consistent routine of exercise is really helpful, and then a good diet. And so for my diet, I eat a lot of vegetables, berries, nuts, seeds, legumes. I don't eat sugar or fried foods or junk food. So those are like the two big categories. And then if you want to get much more specific, I use a lot of olive oil too. So that's like the beginner level. And then if you get into like more specifics of like what kinds of protein, how much protein. When I talk about this, most people want like a pill to take or like a secret formula for a given thing. And I sadly don't have that. My answer is it's the basic health habits that everybody knows, but nobody does. Those are the most powerful things. And so again, my speed of aging dropped from 1, being normal every 12 months, to having one of the lowest speed of aging scores in the entire world in just a few years' time. And so number 1 is lower your speed of aging. And you can test it with these DNA methylation tests that look at the biological age of your various organs.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's actually very helpful. It's actually very Chinese philosophy: eat well, live well, sleep well, and work out.
Yes.
So it's really hard to achieve. That's true.
Yes.
But I heard you took many other paths, like such as blood, plasma, transfusion, etc. What are your take on all these like more advanced things?
Yeah. So the more advanced therapies, they can be helpful, but they're not a silver bullet. They actually don't replace sleep, diet, exercise. That's why I emphasize these basic habits, because there is no therapy that can make up for lack of sleep, or a therapy that makes up for lack of exercise. Like nothing is as powerful. So they're all just like these very small additive things. The longevity therapies available are just not powerful enough right now. It's like make up for that stuff. So it really is the basics. And then I'd say for the therapies that I value the most, right now I just started hyperbaric oxygen therapy. That's like when you sit in a little pod, the pressurization gets up to 2 atmospheres, and you breathe in 100% oxygen for 90 minutes. For 20 minutes, then a 5-minute break, 20 minutes, 5-minute break. So it's 60 sessions over 90 days. And that's like a pretty intense treatment. People are already busy in life. So it's very hard to do that. But that's the therapy I'm doing. I also did the plasma. The headlines around the world, they made it sound like it's billionaire, vampire, weird tech guy.
Yeah.
I did it to help my dad out.
Oh.
So my dad is experiencing cognitive decline, and there were studies that showed that this was being used for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And so he approached me one day in a panic because he was experiencing cognitive decline. I said, "Dad, I'm happy to help you out. This is experimental. We don't know if it's going to work, but happy to give it a go." And so measuring his speed of aging, it lowered by the equivalent of 25 years. And so it dramatically boosted his health. Whereas my son, who gave me a liter of plasma, my markers didn't change, which makes sense because his biomarkers and my biomarkers are roughly the same. But so where my dad is at 71 and where I'm at 46, and I'm in supreme health, it had a huge effect on him. So I think we will hear, right now so every year, millions of people give organs to loved ones, right? Kidneys, for example. Millions of people donate plasma and blood for others. And so it's a very active thing throughout the entire world. Millions of people do it. We just did it in our family. And so it got this really weird headline where people are like, this is weird. But actually we do this every day, millions of times around the world.
I also watch your YouTube videos because the point of view you got is really controversial. So you often get criticism from the comments, etc. How do you take from all these public opinions?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, okay.
I get so much hate, and I love it so much. Yeah.
Why?
People are like, it's hard being human. It's hard. People are trying their best. They're trying to navigate the world. It's very complicated. A lot of people feel really bad about themselves when they see someone like myself who I'm wealthy and I have access to resources and I'm disciplined and I'm doing well with health. I think it's hard for people to see. So when people see that, they want to cut someone else down. It's fine. Like, I understand that. Like, I've been in bad places before, so it's fine. It's just very hard. And so I view it as with empathy and sympathy. So whenever someone tries to insult me, I just say yes and. Like, I will insult myself and play along with the game. Like, I understand it's very hard. And so it's really good energy. I'm glad they're speaking up. If you don't have haters, you're not pushing hard enough in life.
In which stage did you develop this empathy or sympathy? Because hearing your story, you were starting poor and then Like which stage made you become so sympathetic?
I think when I went through depression. Yeah, it's like the most hopeless place to ever exist. And like I just really wanted to commit suicide every day. And I didn't really have anybody in my life who could say, like, let me help you out with some basic things. Like I wish somebody would have said like, hey Bryan, sleep. Like that is the most powerful drug for depression, like high quality sleep. And I didn't know. And I wish someone would have said like, if you exercise every day, that's a really good helper. Like here's good foods and here's bad foods, but I just didn't have anybody in my life. And I really want to be that role for other people, is basic life advice about being healthy and happy. And right now, I think like in 2030 or 2035, we will look back at this time and we're gonna be like, we were crazy. Like we were so blinded by our like bad health habits that we were miserable. Like that was just awful. It's always true in any given moment, you're blinded by your own reality. And I think we're just blind to how bad things are. Like I speak to a lot of groups about this, and typically in the middle of the conversation, I'll say something like this. I'll say, the majority of you have very serious mental health problems. I'll stop. I'll just let it sit. And the room goes quiet, and you can just see everybody's nakedness, right? Like, you know this from your friends, right? Like the majority of your friends probably have very serious mental health problems, anxiety, depression. And so it's like this thing everyone's feeling, but nobody talks about. And what I'm trying to suggest is there's reasons why we feel this. We don't have our basic health in place. Like the world's kind of insane right now. And if we get these basics in place, then we take the next step and get better. And so this is why, again, I was kind of going back to that funny comment, is like, most of the world is depressed and anxious. But then look at me and they're like, but are you happy? It just like captures the moment so beautifully.
But you think fixing the health problems can also fix the anxiety problems?
Yes. I mean, for some people, getting these basics right solves all their mental health problems. Some people it doesn't. So some people need follow-on treatments with doctors, but as a first line of defense, like if you can't sleep well, the first solution is not a sleep med. The first solution is sleep habits. If you're having mental health challenges, you might consider that sleep habits and exercise and diet is the first line of defense, not medications, not an SSRI. And so we have a culture where we jump to pills because pills are easy to take, and we hope pills will solve things, but they don't. Habits are the strongest.
Okay. So is that why you started building your own brand blueprint to help more people to live healthily?
Exactly. I mean, we started running into these really basic problems, like extra virgin olive oil is one of the best superfoods in the whole world. 15% of my daily diet is extra virgin olive oil. But getting high quality olive oil is very hard because, one, you can buy it at the store. It says extra virgin olive oil on the label, but you have no idea what's in it. And so if you don't have it tested, it basically could be worthless, or worse than worthless, it could be bad for you. And so we needed these third-party lab certificates on the values of our food. Otherwise, if it doesn't have the certain levels of quality, it's worthless to us. So we started testing all of our foods, and we found out that most labels are not right, and most foods have a ton of contaminants. And so we were kind of forced to do this ourselves because like the world just had really contaminated, misrepresented food. We had to build our own stuff by sourcing stuff from around the world. So I had to solve the problem for me. Then I solved it, and my friends and family were like, I want it too. I'm like, okay. And it just like naturally grew. It's like, we might as well just do this for everybody. And so right now, I've learned from my experience, food is guilty until proven innocent. The global food supply chain is just contaminated.
Yeah, it's actually quite strange to me when I was looking at Blueprint, because all the technology used, like stem cells, are also ahead of time, but the products you sell are so basic. It was quite, quite shocking to me.
Yeah, so I love it. What you're identifying is the power laws are the basics. It's like stem cells can like maybe like top things off, or like, plasma therapy can be a nice booster, but you eat 3 times a day, right? You basically, like, each meal is an intervention. It is a drug. So you're basically taking these food drugs 3 times a day, every day. So you're dosing more food than you're dosing anything else. And so you have to get that right. And so this is why intelligence, as it gets smarter, is moving more towards value in existence. And so I was trying to say, what is essential for our existence? Like, my smartphone is great, but food is more important. Like my body needs food and clean water more than anything else. It needs these other vitamins and minerals more than anything else, not my phone. So I was trying to start with like the basics of existence, and nobody was doing it. Like, no entrepreneur friend I have was working on food. Like, no one was solving the most basic problem of human existence. And meanwhile, we're all existing in this contaminated stew of stuff, and nobody was solving it.
Okay, so why are you in China then? Are you trying to expand this project to China?
Humanity is run by a very small number of ideas. Like, so Confucius was very influential, right, in Chinese culture. Muhammad was very influential in the Middle East and throughout, in his philosophies around Islam. Jesus has been very influential with Christianity. Adam Smith has very influential with capitalism. Karl Marx with socialism. Democracy, right? Like, the Chinese have been a critical part of human history, interwoven with these key ideas. And when you look at the human race, it's a very, very small number of ideas that run the biggest groups of people. And what I'm suggesting is, we, all of us humans, are moving into a brand new era of being human. And I'm wondering whether our systems we have right now as a species, all countries combined, whether or not we have the answers to this moment as we give birth to superintelligence. And I'm suggesting that don't die is the single thing that we as a species agree upon. Every single human on this planet, we don't want to die in this moment. Now, this has nothing about eternity and nothing about that kind of horizon. It is, we don't want to die right now. And so I want to be here in China because I think China is important. I think China is powerful. I think China is going to play a critical role in the future of the human race. And I think that we have more things to cooperate on as a species than, so I'm trying to say that this is the area where we can bridge our differences. We can be united. So it's really like an effort to like bring the world together on something we can cooperate on robustly.
Yeah, well, I see. So I feel like you're developing a new value chain or a new system of beliefs. So are you also developing a group of like super followers or people who can promote these values for you?
It touches all aspects of life. Like, governments already do this. Like, governments want their populations to be healthy. No government wants their populations to be unhealthy, right? They want people to be vibrant and healthy and to work and to be happy and to be peaceful. And so all governments want these things. And sometimes those things don't happen for a variety of reasons. So yes, I'm trying to introduce a brand new way of thinking that does not exist, and say this new way of thinking matches this new moment in time. And like, thank you to the previous ideas who got us here, but they ran their course, but they're no longer equal to this moment. Like, so, I mean, imagine this. So there's a thought experiment I do which helps me think about this. So if you hang out with Homo erectus 1 million years ago as our ancestor, and you ask them, what is the future of human existence going to be like? They are going to take the patterns they have in their minds and say, well, we're going to hunt more, we're going to gather more, we're going to fight more, we're going to like migrate more. But those are the patterns they have of reality. What they're not going to say is, one day you're going to hold a box in your hand and you'll speak to anyone on the planet real time and see their face. Or that one day you'll hold a pill in your hand, you'll swallow it, and your infection will go away. Or one day we'll discover there's microscopic objects like bacteria. They just don't have any model of understanding. And so I'm proposing that as we give birth to AI, new concepts and new knowledge is going to emerge that is unfathomable for our current minds. And so it's wise for us to say, we may not have the answers to the future. We may not even have anything intelligent to say about the future. We may be blind to the future. Therefore, what we can say with knowledge and power is we don't want to die, at least right now. And so I'm trying to level set, like, how can we be wise as a species right now?
Then what do you see as the relationship between AI and human? Are they becoming more and more similar?
No one knows. I don't think anybody can say anything intelligent about AI. It's moving so fast. If you look back over the past 20 years of how many people have said accurate things about AI, like when things will happen, in what way, at what time, nobody has been accurate. And so it's reason to believe that nobody now can say anything accurate about AI. So it's just, humans love to postulate, they love to predict, and we forget that the accuracy is not there. So I think it's better for us to acknowledge nobody can say anything intelligent about it.
Okay. So before I ask you some question about death, and I actually really want to ask you about anti-aging industry and how do you view it? What's it at stage in US and in China? Because I know you're going to a couple of summits for anti-aging. So can you tell me about, like, what's the most trendy thing right now in the US for anti-aging? Like, I also remember you inject baby face, Project Baby Face, fat into your face, etc. Can you tell me more about it?
In US, I'd say the trendy things in health and wellness are like cold plunge, sauna, NAD drips, red light therapy. Those are like roughly, there's people take a lot of supplements in the US, wearables. Those are kind of the more trendy things.
Right. Do you wear the rings today?
I have a wearable,
So how much of that contributes to your Don't Die project? Like you said, the basics are the most important thing. What about these technologies?
So for example, I don't cold plunge. So one interesting effect of my protocol for the past 4 years is that my body temperature has dropped almost 3 degrees Celsius from a baseline temperature. So there's interesting evidence to show that animal species that have lower temperatures, lower the metabolic rate, live longer. And so my body temperature has dramatically dropped. And so to give context to that, you'd have to swim in ice for over an hour to achieve the same body temp I have. So my protocol, and maybe that's because my inflammation in my body is near zero. I have a very meticulous diet. I sleep really well. I exercise, like my body is just so healthy that my metabolic demand is just also down. And so I don't cold plunge. And also there's not a lot of evidence that cold plunging leads to longevity. So I was telling you what's trendy, not what I do. Because most trends don't necessarily correspond with the evidence. Like scientific evidence says one thing, cultural trends are like a different thing altogether. So we do not follow cultural trends, we only follow scientific evidence. Red light therapy, I do. Sauna, I don't do. A lot of the data about sauna is observational. It's not interventional, so the robustness of the evidence is not great. We want to do an interventional study and see if we can see effect on me. So I guess TBD on that one. NAD drips, we don't do.
What about aesthetic treatment or the injecting fat part? How did that affect you?
So when I started this project, our goal was to have the best biomarkers in the entire world. And we succeeded, but then when I was sharing the data publicly, like one thing we were doing is I was on caloric restriction, so I was eating 1,950 calories a day, which is roughly 550 calories less than normal for me. So there's good evidence that caloric restriction could contribute to longevity, eating fewer calories, but a result of that is I got very skinny. And so when I got very skinny, I lost a lot of volume in my face. And it turns out that when the average person views somebody and they say, is that person healthy or not? They look at fat in the face as one of the most important markers of health. Even though like the heart may be healthy and the lungs may be healthy, if you don't see fat in the face, people are like, that person's not healthy. And so the entire project was being based upon whether I had fat in my face, because people are not aware, like what is speed of aging and what is a heart age? Like they don't, like it's too advanced. And so we started Project Baby Face to try to revolumize my face. Like how do you get fat in my face? Now most people, as you know, they refill their face with filler, right? The easiest way to fill fat loss is just like pump it full of filler. We didn't want to do that. That's masking the problem. It's not really a solution. And so we were trying to genuinely solve the collagen and fat of a younger face. And so there's an established treatment to do fat injections. You can use your own fat. The problem is I didn't have any fat in my body to use. So I used a donor. So I put a donor's fat in my face, and I had a severe allergic reaction. So I blew up. So the therapy didn't work, but all things with Blueprint, I shared the results nonetheless. So like we share the good and we share the bad, so everybody sees transparently. And then I did other things like collagen stimulators. And so what you see today is just like naturally trying to refill my volumization without any kind of cosmetic adjustments. I've not done cosmetic surgery or filler or Botox.
I'm trying to keep very open-minded just to learn from this, but still got very mind blown. But there's still a couple of ethical questions I still want to ask you about. Like, do you ever feel that the motivation you have is actually your fear of death? I mean, I think life is short, and that's why we cherish everything in it from a very sentimental or emotional point of view. Are you really just afraid of death, so you're doing all these?
Yeah, I don't fear death. I don't understand that emotion. I don't know why. Like, so once you're dead, and you can't feel anything. So it's not like you're dead and you regret it. It's not like you're dead and you're like, oh man, this stinks. You're just dead, like you're out. And so there's nothing to fear. Like once you die, you're gone. And so no, I don't have a fear for death. I have a love for life. I think the fact that we exist is the coolest thing in existence. I think that as we evolve into a more intelligent species, right now we're extraordinarily primitive. As we evolve into higher levels of consciousness and intelligence, we will value our existence above all things. It will be more important than wealth. It'll be more important than status. We just want to exist. And so I think I am an early indicator of what's to come, that the sacredness in which I value existence is like powerful. I remember like when I grew up in this really small religious community, and like they had a story about death. It's like, you know, when you die, you go to this afterlife and you're with God. And so in that frame, you don't care if you die, right? Because it's like good if you're alive, good if you're dead. Doesn't matter. And so you really become indifferent to death. Like you're just like, it's fine. And so if there's bad things in the world happening, like wars and famine and people are dying, there's a story for that, like, oh, don't worry about it, it's all okay, because there's this afterlife. And so humans have created these really elegant stories to kind of soften the blow of the difficulties of life. But like, you know, we don't know if those things are true. Like, there's no way to know if it's true. And so I don't want to gamble my existence on an afterlife. Like, if there is one, great. Like, if I show up and it's there, wonderful surprise. But right now, nobody knows if there is one. So I'm really saying that existence is this highest virtue.
So knowing that you won't die, anything changed in your life?
I'm much more careful with my existence. Like I view certain behaviors like the things that increase my speed of aging and possibility of developing disease, I think are crazy. Like the wildest, crazy things ever. I try to avoid injury. Like when I drive my car, driving my car is the most dangerous thing I do. So I try to drive very carefully. I don't check my phone when I drive.
What about human relationships? Like, do you view it differently after knowing that you won't die? Do you cherish more, or it's the same?
For example, like my 19-year-old son here is with me today on this trip. So he was with me in India and also China. Like, you know, I want to live multiple lifetimes with him. Like, I want to journey with him through all things. He's doing the full protocol with me, so I really care about his health. I want him to be around, and he wants me to be around. So yeah, I think we really are invested deeply in each other's well-being, whereas I think a lot of people can be in like self-destructive habits, where a lot of people, if you overeat, if your partner overeats, it's easier for you to overeat. And you both overeat and it's fine. Or if you both have bad habits of sleep, so like you really are like, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
And so I really selectively choose people who contribute to me being my best self in the most positive ways.
So your son is also a very big follower of your project. He's also doing the same thing.
He is.
Like voluntarily, or you encouraged him, or he just by his own will?
Yeah, I'm very hands-off with my children. I told them very early on, I will give you my perspective, but you will decide what you want to do in life, your choice. So I have 3 kids. 1 has chosen to do this and 2 have not. So I'm fine with that. Like, they can choose their own path in life, but I definitely want them to be making their own decisions.
I see. So hearing this, I feel like the health is actually a luxury. Like, even live well, sleep well, work out, that's very hard for people. If they have a busy work life, it's very hard for them to achieve, like going to bed at 8 o'clock. So would you think like the world's gonna get, like the richer gets healthier and the poor will just have a lower existence of life?
So I'd say 996 becomes 10:30, 6:30, 7. Okay? So work ends at 9, hour to get home, get yourself sorted, 30 minutes to have a wind down routine, in bed by 10:30, sleep 8 hours, wake up at 6:30, do your morning routine, take care of your stuff, do 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, at work at 9, and do it 7 days a week. So you just need to make sleep a priority. So if you're working 12 hours a day, you can get 8 hours a day of sleep. That gives you 4 hours to take care of other stuff. So I would say you can, it's a structured life. And so if you're gonna be at work at 9 and end at 9, that's like a commitment you made, right? Same in bed, 10:30, 6:30, like it's the same commitment. And right now, when we feel pushed in work and other things, we minimize sleep. Like, sleep is the first thing to go. Like, we make time for everything else except for sleep. And so if work is non-negotiable, sleep is non-negotiable.
It's kind of hard to believe. So if I follow this schedule, I can live forever? I won't die?
It means that you're going to be more energetic. You will feel more energy. You will feel more clear-headed. You will be more healthy. You will be less likely to develop disease. You will potentially be able to lessen anxiety and depression. It will make you a better coworker, a better friend, a better lover, a better citizen. It will make you better in every single thing you do.
Then what is the thing that you did so that you won't die and I will still die?
Yeah, so it's about the consistency of my application, right? If you and I are both trying to get 8 hours of sleep a night, if you and I are both trying to exercise every day, and we're both trying to eat well and not eat bad stuff, if there's a scoreboard, how many days am I gonna do it and how many days are you gonna do it? And what I've done is I am consistent every single day. I nail these things. Never deviate. Like, that's not true. I deviate when I travel, like I've deviated. But like, generally speaking, I'm extremely consistent. And so that's really, and then you can add other therapies, like you can do like the hyperbaric stuff, you can do the stem cells, like yes, but they're not the major power drivers. They're just add-ons with slight additives. It's all about the basics.
Okay. Well, it's actually very helpful for me to hear because I go to bed very late at 2 a.m. every day.
Most people do. And this is the thing, this is like, if we're sober about ourselves, right? If we're sober, we all know when we sleep well, we feel great. We know when we don't sleep well, we feel terrible, right? We feel groggy and we're grumpy and our head hurts. We know it's not good, but we do it. So it's just, there's just like a shift. If we can just like get our heads about us and just be sober, we know sleep is important. All of us do. It's the cultural shift. And like a lot of entrepreneurs and ambitious people, you're worried that if you sleep and they don't, they're gonna beat you. If you sleep and they don't, they're gonna succeed more than you. But if a bunch of us do it together and we're like, okay, we're all cool. We can all be successful, we can all be winners, we can also get sleep. But I think this is really a reason why so many people struggle with mental health problems is our sleep and our health habits are just terrible.
I'm glad to know the solution to healthy life is actually very simple.
Exactly.
Eat well, sleep well, work out. What are your future projects in this year? I saw that you have a Netflix documentary coming out in January. That's very exciting. Thank
you. Yes, it's a global release. It's dropping January 1st. I think it's going to be a global zeitgeist shift. I think this is a moment for us. And I'm very excited about it. One of the best filmmakers in in America approached me after this went viral, and he said, I want to tell a story about this. I'm going to film you, but you have no creative control. You have no storytelling control. I'm just going to film you, and you have to be okay with the outcome. I said, great, let's go. And so he made a doc, and I think it's going to be, yeah, I really think like this is going to be a big shift. Like 2025 is going to be crazy. AI is going to continue to march forward in all this progress. There's so many things happening right now on planet Earth that are just like epic scale. So I think it's like a really serious moment for us. And I'm glad that Don't Die is now like becoming part of the global zeitgeist.
What your plans are for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I really want Don't Die to become a global agreement among everybody, all countries, all citizens. And for us to say, we value existence. We don't want to hurt each other. We don't want to go to war. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want to hurt the planet. We want to stop these self-destructive, violent habits. It's like we've done that as a species. We're moving on to something else. I want us to evolve as a species into something better.
Last very spontaneous question. I saw that there's some guy, I forgot his name. He's also on this Not Dying project and has a battling opinion against yours. I can't remember his name. And also Sam Altman is also doing something similar. Do you feel like these are like conflict of opinions or interests, or you're fine with that?
Yeah, I'm great with it. I'm the only person in the world that has opened myself up to the entire world and said, here's all my data. So people can talk smack, they can disagree, but they have to release their biomarkers, right? Like you can't go to the Olympics and be like, yeah, you ran the 100-meter dash, but I've got an opinion about that. Like you have to run the 100-meter dash, right? You have to post a score. And so no one's posted a score. And so it's not that I am trying to be number one, I'm trying to say like, people disagree about health and it does everybody a disservice because everyone gets confused. So just follow a scientific process where you measure yourself, you apply science, and then you share the results. Then everybody can see it in the open. Now, if somebody can do it better than me, great. Like that's a big win. That's why I'm doing this. And so people approach me all the time. They're like, I'm gonna beat you. I'm like, great, I'm gonna help you beat me. Like I want you to beat me. And so this is like a raise all boats situation, but I'm trying to establish the way to solve conflict is not criticism, it's to post your data. And so whether it's be a scientific study with a lot of people or whether it's you individually, data is helpful for all people. So it really is like a humanity scale project. I've made the whole thing free for everybody. I share everything I learned for free. There's no gating. Even the products I make, I share the exact formulations, like do this and this and this. Like if you want to do it on your own, go do it. So I'm really legitimately trying to help the world out.
Cool. Thank you very much, Bryan. I think it's actually, I'm trying to absorb all the things you said, but I agree with what you said on live well, work out, eat well, sleep well. I think that brings a lot of more insight to me too. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your future projects.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.